I was eating a pastrami sandwich in New York when I was a kid at Stage Deli, and I'm having my pastrami sandwich, and I'm 10 or 11 years old. Fucking Burgess Meredith walks by me down the street, and I yelled out loud into a restaurant, "Clash of the Titans!" He couldn't hear it. All people knew was that 11-year-old was just yelling out a name of a movie, and no one saw that Burgess Meredith was going by. Then, like the day before or the day after, we saw Richard Gere walking down the road, and I could hear my mom ovulate. Like she just completely. She's like, oh.
Cody got her period during an Andy DeFranco set at Lilith Fair. Was it Lilith Fair?
You mean her first period?
Yeah, her first. Yeah,
she became a woman.
She dropped her first egg. I don't know if that's accurate, but if that's how
she shed her first egg.
She got her period. She transitioned from girlhood to womanhood during an Andy DeFranco song.
There's a girl I knew I went to high school with. Her first orgasm was like at 12 or 13 years old at a Prince concert. She was with her mother or father or both, and she was standing there and she goes, I didn't know it was happening to me. I was watching this man perform, and she realized later on, she goes, oh no, like I came.
All right.
Like she had a full-on Prince-induced mind orgasm. Because I was like, yeah, I almost have an orgasm when I watch Prince. Like he's fucking amazing.
There was an article about Prince when he died where it was like, I think it was like from the point of view of trans. What do you call them? You can still call them drag queens, right? That's not.
Yeah.
I think it was like, but I can't remember that part. I can't remember, but I remember it was like sort of performers who worked within the flux, the outer edges of the binary world, the heteronormative sphere, and but they were talking about like how Prince was this song. That Prince was music that like no matter what the song was, it was always the song. Like Prince was specialized. The sonic waves that came from a Prince song were perfect at turning straight people bi or gay. like it was like if you were on the edge, if you were curious, like the thing that would get you every time was like that Prince was making this music by intention or not unconsciously. That was the energy. That wasn't his sole purpose in the world, but that was like something that was kind of known to DJs and strippers and things.
That sounds like Catholic propaganda.
Well, I mean, yeah, but this was from a place of like these were people who were like thankful for those properties. They were like, we could really put this to some use.
Yeah.
Prince could sing the straightaway.
I mean, he definitely. Yeah, I remember when my brother was 5 years older than me, and like so in the 80s, like the androgynous revolution started to happen in pop. Boy George and Prince, and even heavy metal. Like if you could tell whether you were a boy or a girl, it was like a little bit to your discredit. Like you really needed to be like. The more you were more masculine if you were like more like there was more makeup and hairspray and high heels involved.
Yeah, Motley Crue kind of took, or like Poison rather, they kind of took it to the extreme. It's like, okay, like you're going out of your way to be fake drag queens.
But I gotta confess, because my brother was 5 years older than me, so I was a kid, and I was like 10 years old when that was happening. It was a little intimidating to me. That was too much sexuality for me. It was sexuality. I didn't even know what sex. I mean, I knew what sex was. Sex was Pam Dauber from Mork and Mindy. Sex was Penny from Inspector Gadget. I was her age. Sex was like it was Linda Sheenbuckner in sixth grade.
You actually were, there was arousal because of Penny from Inspector Gadget?
No. All right, come on. Can we put a pin in that?
It's a yes or no question.
I was, dude. I was like, well, I was thinking, when I was like 11 years old, I hit this transition where I started thinking of everything sexually. Like one of my most common fantasies was I would like hump a pillow and think of myself as being Skeletor and thinking about fucking either Tila or She-Ra. From the He-Man averse, and it was like, I guess because he was a monster, and like maybe because I had like these blue pajamas that were really tight because I was sprouting, so because I was going through puberty, so I had like these blue pajama bottoms that were basically becoming tights because they were so small, like they were made for a little boy, and I was becoming a man, so I was like hulking out through my blue pajamas. So something about like I had talked about this where I was like, I didn't want to touch myself, but I was like getting so into so I was just humping everything. And so then I was like, but then also part of that was like, I didn't want to do it with my dick out. So then I would like wear these pajamas and I'm like in blue tight pajama bottoms. And I would think I just like got the visual cue that I was like Skeletor.
Okay.
Because that was something that was on TV when I would come home from school. And then I was like, what I'm saying is like everything was sexual. Everything. Yeah. The Charge of the Light Brigade, Peanuts.
When I first started masturbating, maybe I was 12-ish, like when I first started perfecting the arts or beginning the lifelong love affair of masturbating, I would go into the bedroom, the bathroom in our house that had a lock on the door because one didn't and one did. And there was a magazine that had an ad with Nadia Comaneci, the gymnast, and it was for Hanes underwear or something. Like she was like we're kind of wearing like boy short underwear, and that was the sexiest thing in the world for me. Like I hid that magazine like a treasure. That one picture of Nadia Comaneci.
Yeah, I mean that was a big thing in the '80s. Like people who grew up in our generation, everybody knows about like the Sears catalogs and stuff. Because pornography. It's just hard to fathom for anybody that was born in the internet.
When the Victoria's Secret catalogs came along, I was like, this is free sex.
Yeah, I was like, I can't believe that I'm on this mailing list. How did I?
All you have to do is just ask.
Like, why aren't they asking any questions? And the answer is they don't care. The more the merrier. But it was, I felt it's like so funny that like there must be a huge generation gap with that where people are like, what are you talking about? Pornography is something it's like black mold. It like grows in your walls. Like, why are you hoarding it in a folder?
We used to when we Matt Gorley and I were young, we were maybe early high school. Like freshman year, there was someone found a penthouse, not the big full Playboy size magazine size penthouse, like a smaller one that had stories in it, like penthouse letters or whatever.
Right. I love the forum. Yeah.
Yeah.
I started
penthouse forum, and we hid it under in a knoll, like a knot of a tree, and it was all covered in bugs and just moisture. And we would 5 guys. We would run home from school to go to the tree and unearth this horrible relic and sit there and just go, oh man!
I keep explaining to modern moms, moms are 30 now, and they're kids to me. They're 14 years younger than me, and they're moms of kids who are starting to. They're catching their web history on the laptop, YouTube, where you can type in anything you want, and I try to assure them. I'm like, it's a weird conversation because they'll express all this anxiety about my kid. They're searching for this. How are you supposed to raise a kid healthy in this environment where they can just type stuff? And I'm like. And I always respond by, which I'm sure isn't reassuring them, by going hey, look, when I was a kid, my YouTube was a pile of mud outside on a railroad track. There was a printing company that made Hustler torn sheets of it would end up next to the crawdad pond where we'd hunt for crawdad. And my generation learned about sex in mud and dirt and ladybugs and crawfish. And,
you ended up building a raft and going down a river with a noble black gentleman, didn't you?
And I think that's bound to make you more misogynistic, more bent, and closeted, and therefore have a propensity for, just foot and mouth, or in the worst case, actual, aggressive behavior. I think that's gotta be worse than growing up in a computerized technocracy where you can type in vagina because you don't know how to spell it yet. And it says, do you mean vagina? Here's 100 of them. It's obviously what everyone's worried about. It's yeah, but you can type in horse fucking into YouTube and it's like a kid can and it's so if they're exposed to all that stuff, how can they grow up healthy? And I don't have the answers, but
do you think there's people that type in horse fucking because they want to watch 2 horses fucking, and that's their jam?
I think
the answer is yes, of course.
I think the fear is that the more sex is demystified, the more it becomes there's an invitation to sociopathology there, and it makes a gut level sense to us that if your kid has access to an infinite database of sexuality, that if you grew up where with sex being precious and mysterious and marked by thresholds and rites of passage, and your kid is raised in a mainframe of sexual imagery, isn't your kid going to have more of a tendency to become Jeffrey Dahmer because they'll look at all these boobs and vaginas and bestiality and gender bending and blah blah blah, and because they won't have any thresholds or rites of passage about it, then they'll crave something more flavorful, which can only be the darkest things possible. I understand the logic of that, the gut level emotional logic of that. But if you really think about it, and I'm not saying I have the answers and let's all of society, let's do this experiment where we don't give a shit what kids do on the internet. But doesn't it also make sense that that's an inverted logical principle, Spencer? Don't you think that that's like a classic logical fallacy? That if the kids have access to more sex information, that they will become kinkier? Because what we're really saying is, I had less access to sex information and am only so kinky. Therefore, my kid who has all sex information will be kinkier than me. That's a logic. Isn't there a label for that fallacy?
I don't know. I mean, I think it's probably true. I think the internet is only reverse stigma in terms of sexual acts. I don't think it's really added any stigma to any sexual acts that hasn't been there before, you know? So in a way, the only thing that can happen is barriers being broken down and thus people getting kinkier and kinkier, right? But that's, defined as evolution.
All the kinks must have been invented by now, and there's people that have been doing weird shit for, pre-internet.
But one should acknowledge the DeMorge perspective, which was that, because I was talking about how, don't you think porn, is like, as much as we disrespect it, it's like, it's the tip of the spear in a cultural sense, because when you reduce all humanity to animalistic energy, which does include this big black stud's gonna fuck these two white girls like they've never been fucked. Yes, you're animalizing the black dude, but these women are not being respected either. Yeah. Elevated, yeah. And that everybody in a porno movie is an animal, and which is a state that you go into when you're jerking off, and like that. I don't know. That's what I was trying to explain in those episodes, which I keep thinking that's what chased DeMorge away. But I do want to. I just want to say, DeMorge's point was actually, whenever there's delineation, that it doesn't matter how progressive it looks to you. I don't mean to put words in DeMorge's mouth, but that I think what his point was is like, whenever there's acknowledgement of a black man being black, basically, like you may feel like it's better than hitting him with a belt in a bar because he's black, and that may be technically true, but that it's also a fallacy to say, looks like we're making progress in the porn world because they're not saying you can't fuck because you're black. That was my fallacious observation. I just wanted to like make sure, like, I think I understand his point of view too, which is like, yeah, okay, like until the day comes when porn is Martin Luther King style, i.e. everyone's just a person and nobody is being called like, check out this spicy Latina. We haven't made it anywhere, and porn maybe not the tip of the spear. Maybe porn is just the jet stream behind our fucking sluggish racist like ways.